All right, good afternoon everyone and welcome to our second Knology Education Series event, Virtual Servers Simplifies and Maximize Your IT. My name is Matt Lieber and I am the Lincoln Sales Executive here at P&L Technology, and I will be presenting today with our expert presenter, Drew Embury. What we're doing these because we found there's a lot happening in the technology industry today and that it can be a little bit overwhelming to a lot of the business owners out there. So we hope these sessions can bring some clarity to some of the different technology buzzwords that you're experiencing and seeing in the industry today, and hopefully the topic that we're covering in virtualization will add some insight and just give you a brief overview of simply how this will work. This is a listen-only event and it will be recorded. If you do have questions, please chat them in and we'll save some time at the end to address as many as we can. Following the session, we will introduce some future topics that we hope you'll be interested in learning more about. You will be receiving an email as well that will contain a short survey that we hope you will take the time to fill out, and as it will assist us in making our future sessions a little bit more informative. And this webinar is created for a broad audience with both business and IT executives in mind. We hope that you find this session on virtualization valuable and helpful to your business. Now introducing the presenter today will be Drew Embury, and Drew is the Executive Vice President and Partner at P&L Technology. He helped establish the company back in 2004 and is continuing to assist in developing new technology strategies that can help local businesses. With that, I will hand things off to Drew.
Outstanding, Matt. Thanks for the introduction. I'm really happy to be here. We've got a great topic today, virtualization. Very hot in the industry and certainly buzzword worthy. So today we're going to cover virtual server fundamentals. We're going to discuss why virtualization came out and really kind of define what it is. We're going to talk about some of the big benefits of virtualization, such as server consolidation, one of the top reasons businesses deploy virtualization. We're going to discuss other business benefits of the virtualization, really focusing on ROI that businesses can expect from deploying this technology. We're going to cover key questions that business owners should ask themselves before making the switch to virtualization, or whether they should consider virtualization. And we're going to look at a couple of case studies from several local businesses that have embraced virtualization, why they did it, and some of the results that they benefited from by deploying this technology. So let's go ahead and launch right into virtual server fundamentals. So virtualization can complicate a real common term, the word server. As you know, a server can refer to a physical piece of hardware, like an HP or a Dell server, or it can also refer to a piece of software, such as Windows Server, an operating system. So we just need to be careful we distinguish between the two today. So I'll be calling servers physical servers, and I'll be calling software servers virtual machines or VMs. So that'll kind of help us keep those two straight. So let's first talk about kind of the old way, historically how servers have been handled. And that was typically one server to one application. So each business typically, they started out with maybe one or two servers, and as they grew, they typically brought in additional servers for each application they ran. So for example, you may have an accounting server to run your accounting application, and a CRM server to run your CRM customer tracking system. And other line of business applications probably brought in a server to run on these applications. This was a lot of times dictated by the vendors, where they really wanted their application installed on its own server so they could ensure it ran well. What this created, though, after a time for a lot of businesses is what we call server sprawl, where they started out with 1 to 2 servers, and the next time they looked, 6, 8, 10 years later, there was 7, 8, 9 servers sitting back there in their server closet. This large number of servers obviously created a lot of capital investment, and there was a lot of items to care for, to update, to repair when they broke down, and so on. A lot of these businesses too recognized that after every 3 to 4 years, they really needed to upgrade those servers to take advantage of new technology, new speed, keep the servers under warranty to keep things running smoothly, and it became an industry best practice. But as a result, they had a lot of capital expenditure expense in replacing and caring for these servers. Obviously, that server sprawl also created a lot of complexity. Somebody had to manage all of those devices, to update them, and to keep them running properly. So that resulted in either paying an outside IT company to handle that, or paying somebody on staff to handle that. So a company came along at the beginning of this decade called VMware, and they pioneered a technology called virtualization, which is at its essence really the ability to run multiple operating systems simultaneously on a single piece of physical hardware. So rather than having one physical server for each application and each operating system you need to run, we can now run all those software servers on fewer physical server machines. So this kind of created a new way of thinking. Rather than bringing in one server for each application, we instead create a hardware resource pool that shares the processing power of one or two servers, including the memory, the storage, and the CPU, among a lot of different operating systems running a number of different VMs. So in the marketplace, you've probably heard there are a few products that handle this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on products today, but I wanted to at least touch a little bit on what's out there. So as you see these things in the news or in various websites and things, you'd be aware of what they are. The products are really VMware. They're kind of the leader in the features and performance spectrum. They were the first to market, and they're going to be primarily what we'll be talking about today. Microsoft recently has come up with an offering they call Hyper-V. They are the price leader in some cases. They can be less expensive than VMware, although they're lacking in features in some cases. And then there's a third, little more distant player called Citrix Zen. So again, I'm not going to go into a lot of depth on the differences in these products for this webinar, but I did want to touch on those. So let's go ahead and transition now into the business benefits of virtualization, which of course is the main thing that businesses want to look at when bringing in new technology. So we talked a little bit already about server consolidation, and we are finding virtualization to be a fit for almost any business with more than 2 servers. In a lot of cases, we're able to do as much as a 10-to-1 reduction or more, where we're replacing multiple older servers with one more powerful server running virtualization software. So this creates a lot of benefits, and one is reduced power and cooling and space needs for all these physical servers. We had a customer recently that had to have 2 portable air conditioners in their server room and still had issues keeping the room cool enough due to all of the servers running in there. And after we did the virtualization project, that issue was eliminated, and they were able to get rid of one of the air conditioners. That was a big benefit from them because they kept breaking down and causing issues. Another big benefit, obviously, is that we touched on earlier as well, is the reduced capital expenditures. Servers are expensive. So by purchasing fewer of these devices, we can free up budget for more strategic uses in the organization. In the same vein, virtualization can bring in reduced operating expenses by saving the IT department a lot of time and allowing those resources, those IT resources, to shift from simply keeping the lights on by managing all these servers to more strategic focus in the organization. So not only the reduced capital and operation expenditures, but by bringing in virtualization, we can accomplish a number of other things. And one is really the need for increasing uptime. We have businesses that a few years ago could afford to be down for an afternoon if one of their servers crashed while it was restored. But due to the increased reliance on technology, they just simply can't afford that anymore. So by bringing in virtualization, we can have multiple pieces of physical hardware. So we could have 2 virtual host machines. We really no longer have to worry about a hardware failure. There's technologies available called high availability and fault tolerance, which allows the applications to continue to run even in the case of a hardware failure. So in the case of where we have 2 virtual host servers with a number of virtual machines running on them, if one of those physical pieces of hardware failure, it can fail automatically over to the other node and the users don't even notice. In the same vein, we've got a lot of customers and a lot of businesses out there that really are needing to take a close look at their disaster recovery. Some of the issues such as the flooding along the Missouri River and the well-publicized Lincoln Public School System's fire in Lincoln have really brought that to the forefront for people that are looking at their disaster recovery. So by bringing in virtualization technology, and we're decoupling the operating system from the hardware, so we can move that around to other pieces of hardware very, very easily and take online image-level backups of that server. So even in the case of a site-wide disaster, we can really restore those virtual machines to spare hardware at another location much, much easier than we could in the past by doing standard tape-based or other file-based backups. Some other big business benefits to virtualization is the ability to take snapshots of running servers. So where this comes in really useful is in the case of application upgrades. So what we can do if we've got a major application upgrade, say for example you've got a complex CRM system you're about to upgrade, we can click a button and take a snapshot of that application or that server before the upgrade and then go about performing the upgrade. And as many of you have probably experienced, sometimes those things don't go quite like they were planned. If the upgrade goes bad, rather than being down while the software vendor and your IT people struggle to get the application upgraded properly, we can simply revert that snapshot to the last known good state where the application was running fine, and then take some time offline to replan and investigate with that vendor what went wrong with that upgrade. Another big benefit of virtualization is what we call resource flexibility. So this allows us to distribute hardware resources like processing power and memory between virtual machines on the fly as they need it. So say for example you're running a really complex report in your accounting system. We can redirect some of those server resources to that accounting system when it needs the power, and then redirect them away from that system when it doesn't. So you probably don't, all of your applications probably don't need the high availability and high power at the same time. So we're able to redirect those resources and take advantage of them to give the most power to the users when it's needed the most. And we really can't do this with physical servers. So what we tend to do is overbuild them so we make sure they can always handle those peak loads. Cost the organization a little more money, and we can really address that with the resource flexibility and virtualization. So now that we've looked a little bit about some of the business benefits of virtualization, let's ask yourself some key questions that business owners should ask themselves before making the switch to bring this technology in. The first question we look at is, are you planning on buying more than 2 to 3 servers in the next few years? Or do you have a large number of old servers in use that you know you probably need to get replaced? If the answer to that is yes, you're probably almost certainly a great candidate for virtualization to simplify the IT environment, spend less on hardware, and potentially add some of the new capabilities we discussed above at the same time. So an example of a real customer application we had here is we had a customer in the packaging industry that had 7 servers that had aged and needed refresh. They were 6 years old, and they knew they were starting to cause an issue for the business by not having the power they needed, and they were concerned about the longevity of those when they reached that age. So they replaced all 7 of those servers with 2 new servers running virtualization. Saved a lot of money by not having to buy 7 brand new servers. Another key question we look at that we touched a little bit on earlier as well is at this time, is any level of downtime for the organization simply just not an option anymore? As companies have become much more dependent on IT, many business owners realize that they really need to be aware of what an extended period of downtime costs them, especially with well-compensated professionals that are unable to work if the system isn't up. So the virtualization can bring in the high availability and fault tolerance features, which can then seamlessly and automatically move a virtual machine from a failed physical server to another in the event of a failure. In many cases, the users won't even notice there's an issue. Then the technicians would be alerted and can repair the problem behind the scenes. So an example of a real customer application we had here is we did have a customer in the advertising and marketing industry. They used the high availability and fault tolerance features to ensure that a failed hardware node wouldn't shut down operations. They had over 100 creative people that were using this system all day long to deliver their projects to their customers. And they did a little bit of math and realized what even a few hours of downtime would cost them. And it was a well-justified decision for them to bring in the virtualization technology needed to offer those features. The third question we have is kind of in the same vein. It's, do you have increasing disaster recovery needs? Virtualization can make it so much easier to recover from something as simple as a corrupted server or even a total site disaster such as a fire, flood, or tornado. Because with virtualization we aren't tying the software in deeply to a specific piece of hardware, we can simply copy or move that virtual machine to any other piece of hardware and have a quickly restored operation. So an example of a real customer application we had here is we had a customer in the medical industry who had grown significantly in the last few years from 5 employees to over 80. And they realized that having a server and their main application down for more than 4 hours would be very detrimental to the business. So they brought in some virtualization software to ensure that even in the case of a site-wide disaster such as a fire, flood, or tornado, they could quickly be recovered to an alternate location and get their employees back up and running without data loss. So what we've looked at so far is we started with the fundamentals of virtualization. We've discussed what virtualization is. We've discussed what some of the key business benefits of virtualization are. And we've looked at a few of the key questions that business owners should ask themselves before making the plunge into virtualization. So let's move now into a couple of case studies of some local businesses that have embraced virtualization and why they did that and what benefits they have received from this. So the first company we're going to look at is a company called Swanson Russell. Swanson Russell is based in Lincoln, Nebraska, and they're a full-service advertising agency, marketing agency with over 150 employees. Swanson Russell also has a significantly sized branch office located in Omaha, Nebraska. This company found themselves with 16 servers. It was taking up a large-sized room, 2 full racks just packed full of equipment. These servers were various levels of age. None of them had been replaced in the last 3 to 4 years, and they really knew they needed to make some additional investment in the servers due to their age and slowing down and not handling the large files and the processing power they needed. The company was also using a tape backup system and wanted a higher level of disaster recovery in place. They knew how long it would take them to restore all 16 of those servers from tape. Just the process of getting the data off the tape and back onto new servers would be several days to get that done. So the company brought in a virtual server solution, and they consolidated all 16 of those servers down to 2 high-powered host machines running virtualization. They installed a storage area network to centralize all of their storage and make it very easy to grow as their storage needs grew. And they installed the virtualization software that takes online image level backups of their servers. And they also installed the high availability features to protect against the failure of one of the physical server devices. So the benefits that Swanson Russell got from this conversion is they only purchased 2 servers instead of 16, which cut down on some of the capital expenses significantly, as well as reduced the amount of space needed for all those servers. The company also reduced their complexity. Now their IT people don't need to care for, monitor, or maintain 15 physically distinct servers. They also got the increased levels of failover. If one of those high-powered virtual host machines fails, their virtual servers simply fail over to the other node and their employees won't even notice. And that was very attractive for them because they had over 100 creative people that without access to their applications are really dead in the water. And the company as well got much better levels of disaster recovery. Their server infrastructure, in the case of a disaster such as a fire, flood, or tornado, can now be restored in a matter of hours to another site versus a matter of days or more. Another company we'd like to examine that took advantage of virtualization is Midwinds Packaging. They're a Lincoln-based company that designs and manufactures boxes and packaging for all types of uses. Midwinds Packaging has 70 computers and hundreds of full-time employees that work out on the manufacturing floor. This company was running 7 servers that had all reached 6 years of age or more. Midwinds Packaging was also using a tape backup system, and they wanted a higher level of disaster recovery in place as well. And they no longer wanted to mess with having to have an employee responsible for ensuring that the tape backup ran properly and ensuring the tapes got off-site. So what this company did is they brought in a virtual server solution as well. They consolidated all 7 of their servers down to 2 high-powered host machines running virtualization software. And they installed a snapshot-level backup system with a remote data backup capability. So some of the benefits that Midwinds Packaging got from their virtualization effort was that, again, they only purchased 2 servers instead of 7, which cut down on the capital expenses significantly, as well as reduced the amount of space needed for all those servers. Something interesting in their scenario is their server room was actually located in the same room as all of the engineers that would design the packaging, in the AutoCAD type systems. And the amount of noise those servers put off was very distracting to the employees, and they'd kind of gotten used to it over the past 4 or 5 years. But by reducing those 7 servers down to 2, the new server is actually a little quieter too. They were very pleased with the amount of noise reduction by this bringing in this. They're doing this server consolidation. The company also reduced their complexity. Now they don't need to care for, monitor, and maintain 7 physically distinct servers, and they got much better level of disaster recovery. Their server infrastructure in the case of a disaster can now be restored much quicker than it could be in the past. And then by bringing in the off-site backup system, their backups were actually done on the virtualization and then transferred over the internet to a data center, so the employees don't have to worry about swapping tapes or making sure that process works anymore. So that kind of comes to the end of the case studies we wanted to look at. Matt, have we gotten any questions chatted in during the interim?
Yep, yes we have, Drew, and at this point we'll start addressing the questions that were asked. The first one that was typed into us was, are there any recurring annual licensing fees with virtualization?
There can be. There's a couple different ways that we deploy virtualization. Just the most basic virtualizations, if you wanted to take a couple of servers and bring them down to one, there's really no additional licensing cost for that. That technology is provided by VMware, Microsoft, free essentially. Some of the higher level features we talked about, such as the high availability and the fault tolerance, the ability to have those virtual machines automatically fail over in the case of a hardware failure, there is a licensing cost for that to purchase the license. And we really do recommend that you keep the maintenance going on them, which would be an annual payment. But typically when you look at your costs, from a 10,000-foot view on the money you are saving and laying out for servers and things, it's not a real significant chunk to keep those maintenance contracts in place. Matt, is there any others?
Yep, the next one was, do you need to buy user licenses for each of the virtual machines?
No, and that's one of the big benefits of the virtualization. Basically, you can spin up additional VMs as you need to in order to meet the needs of your organization. So, so your licensing, if you're bringing in the fuller featured VMware feature sets, you're paying for those one time, and then you're basically able to spin up as many virtual machines as you need to meet your workloads. There are a few in some extreme cases where you're talking about dozens or 20 or more virtual servers. They limit the amount of memory you can license, and then you have to pay a little more if you're licensing a large amount of memory. But most of the people that are in the small to mid-sized business space really won't bump up against those limits. So it's more of a big enterprise concern.
All right, and then there's two more that were typed in. The next one was, if I currently have 3 servers, would it make sense to virtualize them into one of my current machines now, or would a new server be required?
That's a great question. Typically, we do see new servers. It kind of depends on the age of your servers. If you just bought them, there may be the capability for that. But some of the newer machines that Intel and Microsoft have come out with have chips that were specifically designed for virtualization that make it much easier to take 10 old servers and put them on one piece of hardware. So we really just need to make sure that the amount of power is needed to deliver that. The other concern then in that case is, how do you migrate from something that's running that your people are using? We would have to pull that off and install the virtualization software and then put it back on there. So typically you may eat up in labor charges more than you would save by trying to reuse something you already have. So I guess the answer is kind of it depends, but usually it's you're wanting to bring in a new server when you're just getting into virtualization.
All right, Drew, and final question is, does it take a special setup to run VMware or Citrix with the Microsoft server environment as opposed to just simply using the Microsoft Hyper-V?
No, it really doesn't. I mean, they're just different products. They run on standard Intel servers with from HP or Dell or any of the major vendors. So there's really no special considerations in either one of those scenarios.
All right, sounds good, and thanks, Drew. And then it looks like we are running right about perfect on time. And if any of our attendees do have any additional questions, feel free to call our offices at P&L or email Drew or myself, and we'll work to answer your questions. We'll also be sending you the recording of this event, so please pass it along to anyone who you think can benefit from the material, and it will also be posted on our website at pltechnology.com. We hope that you enjoyed this session. We look forward to joining you for future events. Our next webinar topic will be a topic you've heard about quite a bit recently, which is disaster recovery. It will take place on October 5th at 12 noon. Thanks again for your time, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Please stand by.